It's good to see you. How are you doing?
We're doing all right, all things considered. Tough times.
Okay. You're an Israeli, but you're not just an Israeli. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your background growing up and kind of who you are?
Yeah, for sure. I'm not a soldier. I was born in London, grew up in Israel. Um, at the moment, my job is I'm a corporate lawyer, transactional attorney in a large Israeli law firm, work with high-tech companies, with venture capital. Um, most of my clients are international. At the moment, I'm full time, in uniform and fighting hard, given recent events in the country.
Okay. So today we're talking, it's Sunday. I don't even know the date, October 15th, maybe. Last Saturday, these terrible massacres really took place in Israel, and you jumped into action. So can you tell us a little bit about what's inspired for you? What has been your experience?
Absolutely. I woke up 7 a.m. in the morning. We were in the middle of a Jewish festival, high holidays, and we woke up at 7 from sirens in the country. We had a lot of rockets hit our immediate vicinity at home. At this point, I'm with my family and my kids. At one point, we started getting WhatsApp videos showing terrorists roaming the streets of cities and towns in the south of Israel. It was an absolute shock and horror. It was literally everyone's worst nightmare over here. We started getting WhatsApp messages, which turned out to be false, saying that there's terrorists in my hometown as well. And I found myself pretty much trying to calm down and sort of keep people collected in my neighborhood, in my family, my kids, my older kids in particular, were taking it very badly. At one point, probably around 9 a.m., 2 hours after this all started, I got a call up from my reserve unit. I serve in the paratroopers in an elite reserve unit, and we got a call up. I still had no idea what's going on in general in the country. I grabbed my stuff, got to the car, drove. The roads were deserted. There were police blockades everywhere. At some point, I got into my base, and I literally grabbed the rifle, grabbed ammunition, jumped onto a jeep, and my unit, which is entirely composed of reservists like me, people who are lawyers, accountants, shop owners, um, tradesmen, doctors. We all just jumped into the jeeps, fastest we've ever been mobilized, and we raced down south. At this point, information started trickling in of what is going on. Basically, we're being told that there are hundreds of terrorists who have basically taken control of Jewish settlements along the Gaza Strip border and are rampaging, there's no better word for it, rampaging, murdering people, and that we've just got to get in there and save what we can. We drove down. The drive took about an hour. For the last 25 minutes of it, we drove through what I can only describe as a war zone of the most horrific possible description of a war zone. We saw cars burned on the side of the road, bodies of civilians and first responders and terrorists lying by the cars. Fire. There's a lot of fire along the way, sort of on trees by the side of the road, and the cars themselves. A lot of smoke, and this is for probably a stretch of road that goes through about 6 or 7 Jewish towns and settlements. And at this point, we start understanding sort of the significance of what we're going through. My unit stopped and rescued a group of soldiers and who were basically pinned down in a border crossing. We then continued on to a Jewish settlement called Kfar Aza, which turned out to be the center of the violence and of the horror. We went in the evening. My unit, we immediately encountered terrorists, which we began fighting literally as we stepped into through the gate of the settlement, and then over the next 3.5 days, we basically fought to kill all the terrorists inside the settlement, rescue families who were under siege, who managed to escape the carnage by either staying locked in safe rooms or in some cases hiding under their buildings, under their homes. And we managed to save 50 civilians. And we spent the rest of the time, unfortunately, helping to evacuate the bodies. But the scenes were absolutely horrific. It's we have people who have been fighting in wars for 20, 30 years. No one could recall anything close to it. And we spend the time evacuating families, children, entire families, parents, kids, and their pets in some cases. And it wasn't only a matter of killing, the bodies were mutilated in some cases. Very clearly, on purpose, heads were decapitated from some victims. And that's it. Over those 3.5 days, we were very focused on the mission. We all knew exactly why we were there, and we didn't even handle the brunt of the fighting. Other units were dealing with much worse of it, which frankly horrifies me. And that's it. And that after 3.5 days, Tuesday night, we evacuated the settlement, and now we're here.
That sounds horrific, Dan. I'm really sorry that you had to experience that. When you got to that town, Kfar Aza, were the gates just broken open? I mean, was it chaos all around? What did you see when you?
It was a war zone. There was firing, right? There were fights inside the houses over there. What the terrorists had done was they barricaded themselves in the town. The first responders from the most elite units in the IDF had no idea what they were getting into. They were cut down immediately as they came in. And it was only when the IDF was able to sort of enter in force that we were able to handle a proper battle against these terrorists. We got there probably 3 or 4 hours after the first responders showed up. At this point, Kfar Aza was an absolute battle zone. We had literally taken 2 steps into the village, the settlement, 2 steps when we encountered our first live terrorist who began shooting at us. Obviously, we killed him and kept going. But the entire path was strewn with bodies of mainly at the entrance, mainly of soldiers and terrorists. And then as we got into people's homes and to the residential areas, unfortunately, of hundreds of civilians.
Was it clear that the town had been taken by surprise? I mean, this started at 6:30 in the morning, right? People were still sleeping in bed on a Saturday morning, right?
Absolutely. That no warning whatsoever. People were celebrating the holiday. It was the Simchat Torah holiday. It's a very kid-centered holiday. A lot of candy being handed out, a lot of dancing, singing. And that's what people were waking up to, and they were completely hit by surprise. Even as I said before, even the first responders who came in weren't expecting anywhere near the magnitude of what was actually happening over there. We estimate, my unit, that there were 150 terrorists in Kfar Aza, basically waiting, like killing all the civilians over there, anyone they could reach, and waiting for the responders to come in. And the battle only ended We spoke about Saturday when this all started. The battle only ended on Tuesday. That's when the press was allowed to enter Kfar Aza. It was only at that point that the settlement was deemed safe and sterile to enable people to come in.
So, how many people lived in this town?
I'm actually not sure. I'm actually not sure. Honestly, it's a kind of question I'm scared to ask a little bit because, it's really, we got out 50 people alive, right? In a very sensitive and complicated method. I reckon that everyone else that was wiped out. My unit, alone, and there were other units there. My unit evacuated about 110 bodies. So we're talking here about a settlement of probably, I'd reckon, probably 300-400 people. I mean, it's a really small communal settlement. Everyone there knew each other. It's a kibbutz. It's by definition a community. I'm not sure about the real numbers. I'm sort of on a personal level, I try to stay very focused on killing the terrorists and saving who I can, and less about sort of the magnitude of the disaster that occurred.
So I imagine that when you got there and you were trying to extract survivors, you saw things that were really, really unpleasant and very, very difficult. How did you balance between trying to pull out live survivors by while trying to save some of the people who seem to have been victims, who've already fallen victims to the terrorists?
Our immediate mission was to save live people and kill the terrorists in there. We completely ignored the bodies to the point that as we entered the residential areas, we were instructed not to go anywhere near the bodies. I didn't mention this before. Some of the bodies were booby trapped, and some of the safe rooms, which is where families ended to try to protect themselves, some of the safe rooms were booby trapped. Soldiers were killed in a unit operating next to us, trying to get a family out of a safe room, and which exploded. We just completely ignored the bodies at the beginning. Everyone was very, very focused on the mission. The beginning, everyone, you saw the bodies, you stepped away, right? One member of the unit just took a blanket and covered them, sort of, but that's it. We just moved on, focused on saving people. Bodies only started being evacuated on Tuesday. So a full 3 days after they were killed.
And the bodies that you saw, the victims of these terrorists, were they men, women, children?
Everything.
Who
Families.
did they go after?
Families. No, everything. I'd love to say that there was a focus on men, but no. Yeah. Men, women, and children. In some cases together, in some cases the bodies are mutilated. It's very difficult to talk about it. But no discrimination whatsoever. This was 100% clearly a matter of just killing anyone in a settlement, regardless of their age, regardless of their gender. It was just a complete extermination of human life, and in some cases pets as well.
This is absolutely terrible, Dan. Thank you for standing up and taking that really, really difficult job on yourself. You yourself have a family. You live not far from that kibbutz that you went to go save, and you rose to that call. So I really, really appreciate that. And I know it's not your day job, and you've set everything aside. So I think that's really tremendous of you. Thank you for sharing a bit of your story.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and let's keep up the good fight.
Thank you. Speak in better days.
Yeah, please God, please God. We all want to get this over with. You know, we're all ready to fight over here, but none of us want to be here soldiers. We all want to live our civilian lives. So we just want to get this done with, right? You know, and bring safety back to this country, and then get back to being good civilians.
Thank you, Dan. Take care of yourself.
Cheers. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.